Call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Highland Park, Illinois, January 27, 2025. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Brockman. Here. Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Here.
Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Rotering.
Here, we have a quorum. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I am seeking a motion to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held January 13, 2025.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions on the warrant list? Hearing none, will the clerk please call that vote?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays, and the warrant list is approved. Our next item on the agenda is the report of the mayor. And I just want to note that 1 week ago, 3 young women were returned to their loved ones after nearly 470 days being held hostage in Gaza. This past weekend, 4 more were released. Their freedom secured after more than a year of anguished waiting and skillful diplomacy brought hope to so many who have kept the flame of hope burning for so long. But we do continue to call for the safe return of those who continue to be held hostage, and we share our support for everyone affected by this horror, especially those in our community. Tonight, I am pleased to appoint Mark Portman to fill a vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission for the term February 1, 2025 to December 31, 2028. I'm seeking consensus from this council on his appointment. Do I have your consensus? Great. Thank you, Mark. We look forward to your volunteering on the Historic Preservation Commission. We have 2 proclamations this evening. The first is recognizing today, January 27th, as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It is observed annually on the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. And International Holocaust Remembrance Day is an opportunity for us to pay tribute to the survivors and to remember the victims of the Holocaust. I have a proclamation that I'll be reading. Whereas the Holocaust was the state-sponsored systemic persecution and annihilation of European Jewry by Nazi Germany and its collaborators between 1933 and 1945, Jews were the primary victims. 6 million Jews were murdered. Roma, people with disabilities, Poles were also targeted for destruction or decimation for racial, ethnic, or national reasons, and millions more, including gays, Jehovah's Witnesses, Soviet prisoners of war, and political dissidents, also suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny. And whereas the International Holocaust Day of Remembrance has been set aside for the people of the world to remember the victims of the Holocaust and to reflect on the value of each human life, as well as the dangers of hate and bigotry. And whereas we particularly honor the memory of those with no family left to remember them, we also remember the rescuers and liberators, and we honor the survivors who rebuilt their lives after the war. Whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments. And whereas we, the people of Highland Park, should always remember the terrible events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny. And whereas we, the people of Highland Park, should actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom in a just society. Now, therefore, on this day, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, I, Nancy Rotering, Mayor of the City of Highland Park, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 27th, 2025, as International Holocaust Day of Remembrance, and further proclaim that we, as residents of the City of Highland Park, should always work to promote human dignity and confront hate whenever and wherever it occurs. And I know Councilmember Littlewer would like to share how this is a personal story for her.
So I think when we hear about 6 million people, 12 million people, it becomes numbers. And for those of you who have visited in some of these places, while every single life was important, it's hard to understand those numbers. So I spent this weekend in Ohio, where I'm from, and I went to the celebration of life for my great uncle. He's actually my mom's first cousin. And he spent a year and a half in Auschwitz. And at the age of 12, my great uncle rescued him. And actually, they did not go on the march. They stayed in Auschwitz after it was liberated. And my great uncle took these 3 boys and brought them back in Poland to their families. But Jack had nobody left. So my uncle adopted him. And we, grew up with him as our uncle. And there's a large, it's not large, it's a beautiful little Holocaust museum in Cincinnati, Ohio. And while we celebrated his life as a joyful man who really made the most of that life, and every time he had a kid or grandkid, he celebrated the chance that no one else in his family was given. And we went to the museum where my grandmother is one of the main sponsors. And so to see pictures of my mother and Jack and my grandmother on the walls and the acknowledgments to them and the fact that they did survive, it makes you remember that people aren't always victims. They're survivors. They're people who went on to do meaningful things in their lives. They came to places like Cincinnati, Ohio, and couldn't speak a word of English and didn't know, what the next meal or thing was going to be, and they did a wonderful job in any case. And so we celebrated his life, and he did make the most of it. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's easier when you can personalize something with someone you knew or one person rather than all these numbers. And it's a lesson with the hostages, which is why, as torturous as it is, to have them come back in 3s and 4s, at least then we see each face and each family. And we realize it's not about 100 people who are still stuck out there. It's about each family being affected by each one. And if you really want to talk the talk and walk the walk, you can't forget that October 7th and the atrocities done on that day were literally the only thing that's ever been the equivalent of what happened in the Holocaust. And we need to remember that and bring these people home. So thank you for letting me share this with you. And thank you for honoring the memory of these people and their lives as they live them after the fact.
Thank you, and may his memory be for a blessing, as well as the millions whose lives were lost. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to invite Michelle Leon from the United States Holocaust Memorial and Museum to come forward. I don't know if she wants to say a few words. It looks like she may not be here. Okay, we will hold on to this for Michelle. Thank you. Next, we're pleased to share that the National Wildlife Federation has designated Highland Park as a community wildlife habitat. Councilmember Kim Stone will read the proclamation celebrating this achievement.
Thank you, Mayor Rodering. Attainment of this designation is a result of countless hours of advocacy and community education on the part of Habitat Highland Park. Through these efforts, individuals and organizations throughout our community have invested their time and talents to ensure that Highland Park is home to habitat that help to attract, support, and protect pollinators and wildlife, such as butterflies and birds. And it came home to me today. Our yard is one of those designated as a habitat yard. And I, on my way out this evening, saw a hawk in the backyard sitting on the grass eating a squirrel. So we are providing food for wildlife. So I'd like to read the proclamation. The National Wildlife Federation designation of Highland Park as a community wildlife habitat. Whereas the National Wildlife Federation encourages individuals and towns to create gardens and adopt sustainable gardening practices that help wildlife and pollinator populations thrive in the face of climate change, threats to biodiversity. And whereas when a significant portion of a town's population meets the requirements, points are awarded by NWF, which then declares the town worthy of designation, NWF Community Wildlife Habitat. Based on Highland Park's population, the community had to earn a total of 400 points for community certification. And whereas the gardening practices recognized by NWF included providing habitats with adequate food and water sources, safe environment for pollinators and wildlife to raise their young, plus adoption of sustainable gardening practices such as eliminating pesticides and herbicides, individuals who demonstrate that their gardens meet the requirements are awarded 1 point. Organizations such as churches, synagogues, and park districts are awarded 3 points per submission, while schools are awarded 5 points. Whereas the grassroots group Habitat Highland Park arose when several organizations agreed to sponsor the effort to pursue the NWF certification. These groups are Go Green Highland Park, League of Women Voters of Highland Park Highwood, and Rotary Club of Highland Park Highwood. Also collaborating and providing support was the Park District of Highland Park. Now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of Highland Park do hereby proclaim Highland Park a National Wildlife Federation Community Wildlife Habitat and encourage all residents to learn more about the NWF and how to certify their own backyard garden as a wildlife habitat. And I want to recognize Candace Dalrymple from Go Green Highland Park and Habitat Highland Park, who was the main driver of this program.
One of many.
With partners, but thank you, Candace, for bringing this to Highland Park.
Sure.
And getting 400 points.
Yes,
That's a lot of points.
400 points turns out to be a lot. May I respond?
Absolutely.
Mayor Wording and members of City Council, thank you for recognizing the hard work that has been undertaken by the Habitat Highland Park team, but more importantly, by the residents of our town who want to support our local and migratory species by planting native trees and flowers and adopting sustainable garden practices that reduce water and avoid pesticides and other chemicals. As you acknowledged in the proclamation, 4 organizations lent critical support for this project. I would like to identify and thank the representatives of those organizations and ask if they would join me at the podium. Should that happen now or when I'm finished?
However you want to do it.
Well, maybe I'll just finish my few words and then we'll get a photograph. Okay. The leaders, however, I would like to name are Jenny Futterman, who's one of the leaders of Go Green Highland Park, Nancy Goldberg, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Highland Park Highwood, Liz Ricketts, who is the manager of natural resources of the Park District of Highland Park, and Phil Lazarus, who's the president of Rotary Club of Highland Park Highwood. Our town is only the 2nd city in the state of Illinois to be certified by the National Wildlife Federation as a community wildlife habitat, and we are very excited to have the city's recognition of this accomplishment. We have a slate of activities planned for 2025 to encourage even more of our residents to join in this effort. Every participant makes a difference. Announcements will be posted on the Go Green and League websites and in social media. Our butterflies, our hummingbirds, and other wildlife will be the grateful beneficiaries of all of our collective efforts. Thanks very much.
Congratulations.
Why don't we all stand right here and we'll get a photograph and,
Can we invite them up? for a
okay.
photo?
Oh,
Come on
that would
up
be
here,
great.
that's fine.
That would be terrific. Okay, terrific.
Yeah, thank you. Stand.
And I've got one of these for you and Liz.
Thank you.
Is there one more, Jenny? Why don't you take one? Okay. Sorry. The tiptoe to be above these things.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Terrific. At this time, we'd like to recognize the outgoing commissioners, advisory group members, and board members who completed their terms last year. I'm sorry to say that in 2024, 2 active volunteers passed away during their service to our community. The city honors the memories and extends our deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Denise Arnold, who served on the Plan and Design Commission, and Edward Kaufman, who served on the Cultural Arts Advisory Group. Please join us in a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you very much. We're very grateful for their hard work on behalf of our community and that of everybody who's gathered here tonight. So those of you who have been our volunteers on these advisory groups, boards, and commissions, you've provided invaluable insights and contributions during your service. Please come forward when your name is called so we can see you and thank you officially for your work. First is Dano Bartolet for the Business and Economic Development Advisory Group. Dano, are you here? No? Okay. Larry Bloom, Business and Economic Development Advisory Group.
I feel like I should be entering a police.
You can come around.
Not guilty.
Congratulations. I'm sorry I didn't have any discs for you.
Got a poster of the city and a proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kenneth Latimer, Business and Economic Development Advisory Group. Okay. Stephen Miller, Business and Economic Development Advisory Group. Nope. Okay. Josh Nannis, Business and Economic Development Advisory Group. Missing out on your moment. Joanne Bernstein, Cultural Arts Advisory Group. Okay. John Blaine, Cultural Arts Advisory Group. Thank you so much.
Thank you for serving. Congratulations.
Thank you.
James Lynch, Cultural Arts Advisory Group.
Same time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Super for framing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Marika Rudy, Cultural Arts Advisory Group. Rhoda Pierce, Historic Preservation Commission. Jean Sogan, Historic Preservation Commission. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Renee Facchini, Human Relations Advisory Group. Ellen Gusson, Human Relations Advisory Group. Nancy Krent, Human Relations Advisory Group. Thank you so much. Thanks. Marissa Bruckman, Plan and Design Commission. Thank you. Adam Hecht, Plan and Design Commission. Michelle Kramer, Sustainability Advisory Group. Thank you. And your Ruby poster. Thank you. Kelly Nichols, Sustainability Advisory Group. So much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Tatiana Papakos, Sustainability Advisory Group. Thank you so much. There you go. Thanks. Dan Rubin, Transportation Advisory Group. Jessica Scott, Transportation Advisory Group. Scott Weisberg, Transportation Advisory Group. Whoops, there you go. A lot going on up here. Nope. Ken Beck, Zoning Board of Appeals. Last but not least, Kevin Cullither, Zoning Board of Appeals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And so, as I mentioned at the outset, these are all volunteers, and we are really grateful to them for their insights and for their time. Please join me in a round of applause. Thank you. So the fun continues. Every year, the community comes together to support a deserving charity at a number of fun events coordinated by Highland Park High School students as part of the annual HPHS Charity Drive. Tonight, we are delighted to welcome two students, Avery Raff and Samantha Rosenberg, to the podium to share more about this year's schedule of events and designated charity.
Good evening. I'm Samantha Rosenberg, and this is Avery Raff, and we are Charity Drive Club co-presidents. For over 30 years, the Highland Park High School community has been raising money for amazing causes. Throughout the years, we have supported various organizations such as the Danny Did Foundation, the Rolf Foundation, the Cancer Wellness Center, and many more.
Although these philanthropic groups vary in their missions, they all serve to bring together the student body, staff, and communities of Highland Park and Highwood. This year, we are so excited to come together to raise money and awareness for the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation.
The Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation was founded 25 years ago in Highland Park and serves the greater Chicagoland area. They are committed to funding breakthrough gastrointestinal GI cancer research. The Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation's aim is to advance cancer medicine and increase survivorship.
The foundation works in partnership with the Robert H. Lurie Comprehensive Cancer Center of Northwestern University, a national leader in the battle to overcome cancer. Their shared goal is to raise awareness and funds to advance life-saving cancer medicine. The Charity Drive Club's mission goes beyond just raising money for the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation. We aim to bring our high school and local community together.
Our dedicated members have invested significant time and effort in planning activities that appeal to both students and community residents alike. We're excited for the in-school Taste of HP, showcasing so many different delicious Highland Park restaurants. Additionally, our Charity Drive Skate Night is open to the entire community, along with many others offering a fun-filled evening for everyone to enjoy.
Please go to hpcharitydrive.org, or you can scan the QR code on the screen to find out more information on upcoming events such as the silent auction, sports day, and our favorite one of all, Takeout Tuesday. Thank you for being a part of Charity Drive 2025. We appreciate the opportunity to share our efforts with you and hope that you will join us in supporting the Harold E. Eisenberg Foundation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We know how much work Charity Drive is, so thank you for what I know has been a long year of planning and will be an insane month of fundraising, and I encourage everybody to show up and support the Charity Drive. So thank you. You make us proud. We appreciate it. Thank you. We are fortunate to have an outstanding hospital in Highland Park, providing world-class health care for our community and residents throughout the area. And tonight we are pleased to welcome Highland Park Hospital President Nicole Fernandez to share more about the hospital's work to support a healthy and vibrant community. Welcome.
Okay, great. All right, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here to spend a couple of minutes talking about what we do at Highland Park Hospital and tell you a little bit about why it's so meaningful to us. Okay. So there's just a quick agenda. So who we are and why it matters. Endeavor Health is a nonprofit health system, and we bring together 9 entities. And we have 300 sites of care with a wide range of services across the Chicagoland area. We came together as Swedish Northwest Community, Edward Elmhurst to form what we call now Endeavor Health. And so our collective goal is to help everyone in our communities be the best they can. So it doesn't matter which entity you walk into or where you work. That is our commitment to everyone, to make sure that we are providing the best care to everyone, and by doing so, expanding our access to care, sharing expertise, and delivering exceptional quality care. So we operate as one integrated healthcare system, and we have a wide geographical area, as you can imagine. And so we have broader access to specialists and state-of-the-art facilities, such as in our local area, we have the Cardiovascular Institute at the Glenbrook Hospital campus, as well as the Orthopedic and Spine Institute over at the Skokie campus. We have the opportunity to really share best practices and really drive safety, quality, and better outcomes. I'm sorry, I'm so not used to talking to a mic. I'm pretty loud without it, so apologies. And we also have the ability to quickly scale any new initiatives or programs across all 9 entities. And so we have found that there is power to being a system of 9 hospitals. We actually are much stronger together, and we can leverage combined resources and continue to deliver exceptional care to our community more effectively and efficiently. So some of the current healthcare challenges that is not unique just to Endeavor Health, but basically nationally. And I'm sure maybe some of you have experienced these challenges, whether you've been in our emergency department or you know someone who has. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them. So we continue as a healthcare system, continue to face lower reimbursement rates. We have inflation that I think we're seeing both personally as well as in healthcare, cyber threats on a daily basis, and something that we continually strategize for. And we also have an aging population that we need to make sure that we have the right level of care for our community members who need that. We also have workplace violence, and this has been a concern for a long time. It has intensified post-COVID, and so it has really made us look differently on how we do things, and it also has lended to a decreased workforce, right, because of so many issues that are happening. This is pretty critical, but in the past 5 years, labor and supply costs have risen about 28%, while reimbursement has only grown 11%. So that's a huge disconnect. And it really does force hospitals and healthcare organizations to think differently, creatively, and innovatively in terms of how we deliver care. And that is really important, not only to survive in this environment, but to continue to thrive, and also to ensure financial stability. So we have experienced some long wait times and some challenges with access to care. And so we know our emergency department waits are long in any of our campuses that you may enter or your loved ones may enter. We also know that there's limited appointment availability as well as immediate care capacity restraints. And so we understand this can be frustrating, and please know that we continue to strive every day to find new ways to deliver care in different ways. This is, again, not unique to Endeavor Health, but this is more a regional and national issue. And it's really fueled by a couple of things. One, we've seen a shortage of healthcare professionals, probably more significantly post-COVID, and it's all different areas. It's not just nursing, but it's nursing, it's pharmacy techs, it's radiology techs. We've just seen people not want to go into healthcare like they used to, which is actually very sad to me, but this is something that we continue to strategize. Rising patient volumes, we continue to see surges in volumes in all of our hospitals. Our patients who are coming in are sicker, and they need more higher level of care. And that's not only in the hospital setting and emergency setting, but also in our urgent care and immediate care areas. We also have, as I talked a little bit earlier, the lingering effect of the post-pandemic with the workforce challenges and resources that it brings. So we could not manage this on our own. So this is part of being part of a larger system, is that we have each other to work through these challenges with, and we actually strengthen the ability to navigate these issues together and not independently. So we also, as part of being part of 9 hospitals, we have the luxury of bringing expertise and resources to our health system. And we're able to recruit additional staff, we're able to adopt new technologies. We're actually learning from one another. What maybe they do in the South region is something that we hadn't done up here in the North, but something we need to consider. And these really all do help address the challenges that we see every day and help to continue to deliver care in a very timely manner. So one of the things that I think we've done to help with some of the long wait times, whether it's in our emergency departments or immediate cares, is we've actually opened 2 additional immediate cares, and one is actually in the service area, and it is on Skokie Boulevard between Dundee and Lake Cook Road. And so we are hoping that by doing this, some of the emergency room visits can be appropriately managed in these settings, which is the immediate care. One thing we can't do is once our patients enter in our emergency departments, they're there to stay. We have to care for them. And so not everyone who enters the emergency room maybe needs to be seen in the emergency room, and they could better be seen in an immediate care. But that's some more education we have to do on the community side, as well as our physician offices, to make sure people understand the right level of care when they're seeking it. But if they come into our emergency department, we will evaluate and we will treat. So something that's really important to Endeavor Health is our community and our constituents. And so some of the things that we've done as part of Highland Park Hospital is we are deeply rooted in this community. So I guess I didn't even tell you a little bit about myself, but I have been the president at Highland Park Hospital for a year now. Prior to coming to Highland Park, I was at Evanston as the North Shore chief, as the chief nursing officer. And then I was at Glenbrook for 5 years and then Skokie. So I've been to all 4 campuses within the North Shore hospitals. And I would tell you, I've not seen as loyal patients as I've seen on the Highland Park communities and the surrounding communities. And it is really very just inspiring to see how deeply connected the community is to our hospital. And so I want to thank you all for that. We are very proud at Highland Park to be a Joint Commission Primary Stroke Center, and we also are the Regional Hospital Coordinating Center for the Illinois Department of Health EMS Region 10. We also have state-of-the-art family birthing center, and this is a little bit different than what's on the slide, but we actually have one area where all of our moms are able to deliver and as well as receive postpartum care in the same area. Maybe not in the same room, but definitely in the same area. We also are a leader in behavioral health, and many of you who may not know, we've recently renovated and expanded our adolescent and young adult unit on the Highland Park campus. And so we continue to grow our outpatient behavioral health offerings because we understand and recognize the ongoing need for mental health. This was something that was here with us pre-COVID, and it has intensified post-COVID, and we are continuing to grow in this area. We also, and this is fairly new, but we also recently received a $2 million grant from the United States Department of Justice to launch what we're calling the Endeavor to Heal program. And this will support high-risk individuals 16 years and older within our community who have experienced some type of violent injury. And so this funding will allow us to connect them to the dedicated individual care teams that they need, whether it's peer navigator for psychological first aid, or whether it's social support or any other resources that they may need to help get through that trauma. So we're very excited about that. And just some local facts and economic impact. So for Highland Park Hospital, we employ about 1,200 employees, and we provide care to more than 124,000 patients annually. And we are proud to do so. And as I said earlier, the community is so important to us, and not only caring for the communities in which we serve, but making sure that we invest in the community. And so Highland Park in totality has provided close to $50 million in community benefits and contributed nearly $819 million to the local economy. We also have a community investment fund, and we're able to partner with local organizations. And just recently, we had our community investment fund program where we were able to deliver some recipients some really great news. And this year, we announced a grant to PADS, Lake County, where they provide support for unhoused individuals. We know homelessness is increasing and it's on the rise. And so this team is very much committed to doing what they can for the homeless, but they need the space and the capacity and the resources to do that. So we've been able to grant them some funding so they can do their magical work. We also continue to support our Highwood Library's behavioral health program, as well as the Rosalind Franklin University's mobile health clinic. Most recently, we've embarked in the Aspire Lake County Workforce Development Program, and this is a really exciting program. And so we partner with a lot of the high schools, and this is a program to allow high school students to see what's available to them in the hospital setting. College is not for everyone, and so we want people to be able to have an opportunity to come into the hospital and see what they like to do, whether it's pharmacy, radiology, lab, nursing. And so we had, Hanya's here, my colleague from North Shore, both Highland Park and Glenbrook, and we had close to 18 students this past summer for 6 weeks, where they got to work with whatever department they wanted to, and they loved it. And we've actually employed quite a few of them. And it's interesting. They have a graduation ceremony at the end of the summer, and one of the students, I was like blown away. She worked with anesthesia, and she basically told the crowd that she could intubate patients now, and she was a high school senior, so it was pretty awesome. So we are really excited about that program and really looking to continue to grow that and give our students more opportunities in the healthcare setting. And then since 2022, Endeavor Health has awarded about $30 million to more than 54 organizations, creating and supporting over 440 jobs and including 500,000 lives through the Community Investment Fund. So pretty large statistics, and ones that we are proud of. And really, I think I would just say that our belief is really when we work together, anything's possible. And so by being part of a much larger system, we have the resources and best practices and people to work on these challenges that we continue to see on a daily basis as it relates to healthcare. So we are really proud of where we are, and I think our proudest part is being able to serve each of you in the community. And so thank you for believing in us and trusting your care with us. And I don't know if there's any questions or any comments from anyone.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, and please share our deepest appreciation with your staff, with your leadership team at Highland Park Hospital for all the great work that they're doing in our community. I know Councilmember Tapia would like to share a thought.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. And so in the spirit of Councilmember Littleworth's personalization of something that is big, you know, just to get to beyond the numbers to the personal and the people. My wife, Lori, who's now in assisted living, she was out after cardiac arrest for more than 8 minutes. And it was at the Highland Park Hospital that they brought her back from being clinically dead. And from there, she went to intensive care unit. She was there almost a month, and then at the hospital bed for another 3 weeks. And today, she was in a coma for 12 days. And the staff was round the clock, impeccable in their service. And so we experienced a lot of the reality of what you're talking about there. Compassionate, savvy, smart, knowledgeable. And even when clinically there was very, very, very little hope, the doctor said we're going to do everything we can, and the nurses and the CNAs and all that, and they did. And so Lori came out of a coma. They actually allowed us to host a wedding for my daughter and her groom right there in the ICU. And 2 days after that, my wife woke up. And but even when she woke up, she was immobilized, and they worked with her so she could sit up and then stand up, and now she's walking and feeding herself, and she's alive. And our daughter and Ali, her husband, are going to have a baby mid-April, and Lori will be alive to see her first grandchild.
Wow.
So thank you, Nikki, to your hospital staff.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to add, that was incredibly moving. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to add my thanks as well. My family has used the hospital on a few occasions medically, and it just, I thank you for the care and support. And as you described your presentation unfolded, I felt like, the hospital's like a city, of its own. And, thank you for providing it to this community and the wider community. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. And I will say, I do realize for the community, it is hard sometimes to grasp the whole specialized care piece where we only do things at certain hospitals, but it is really important to understand why we do that. It's not just something we thought we would try doing, but it's really rooted in science, and you want to make sure that you get the best people to be able to do these procedures, whether it's cardiovascular, orthopedics, cancer, at one place, not several places. That's how we are going to continue to thrive in this community. But it is sometimes hard for our patients to understand that. So I try to speak to that whenever I can. So I appreciate both of your stories. I'm a nurse by background, so I appreciate that very much. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining
Sure,
us today.
thank you.
Continuing on with the world's longest report of the mayor, I am pleased to present the 2025 State of the City of Highland Park. And before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to my city council colleagues, to Barissa Bruckman, to Annette Littlewood, to Tony Bloomberg, to Kim Stone, to Andres Tapia, to Yumi Ross. Thank you. While we do our best most of the time to agree, sometimes we don't always agree, but I have to say our shared commitment to serving the best interests of Highland Park keeps us focused on what truly matters, and our varied perspectives reflect the strength of our democratic process, and I deeply respect the thoughtfulness and the dedication and the integrity that each of you bring to the dais. Together, we try to make decisions that are sensible and responsible and impactful for our entire community. Equally, I'm deeply grateful to the extraordinary leadership and unwavering dedication of our city staff. On behalf of all of us, on behalf of the community, thank you. Under the guidance of City Manager Gita Newkirk, along with our senior staff, all of whom are in the back, Corporation Counsel, Steve Elrod, and every member of our city team, Highland Park continues to thrive. So thank you. Your tireless work ensures that our streets are safer, our environment is healthier, and our residents' concerns are met with sensible and effective solutions. Whether it's providing peace of mind through round-the-clock public safety services, I'm looking at you guys back there, thank you, supporting our business community, managing essential construction projects, or delivering a budget that we can all be proud of, they hold themselves accountable to the highest standards of integrity and responsibility, and for that we are truly grateful. So as elected officials, we work closely with staff to provide our community with responsive customer service that exemplifies our 5 core priorities: fiscal stability, public safety, economic development, infrastructure investment, and environmental sustainability. And you may not know this, but every spring we have a strategic planning workshop, and we revisit these priorities to ensure that we're meeting the practical needs of today while preparing responsibly for tomorrow. And you'll see these priorities reflected in every initiative we undertake this year, always with an eye on their long-term impact. So in Highland Park, we value truth, transparency, and accountability in our governance. Our values statement, our ethics guidelines, and our statement against hate are more than just words on a paper, more than just words on our website. They're promises that we keep to our residents and ourselves every day. These principles remind us to act with integrity, to treat each other with fairness, and to imagine what's possible when we work together towards common goals. So as we begin 2025, I'm proud to say that we adopted a balanced operating budget for the 14th consecutive year. Our principal policy document, the city's budget, is more than just an accounting ledger or an exercise in numbers. It is a clear demonstration of responsible fiscal management and thoughtful stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and our commitment to ensuring peace of mind for our residents. The budget reflects a sensible roadmap for Highland Park's future, aligning with our core priorities and ensuring that every dollar spent is an investment in a safer, cleaner, healthier, productive community for all. In 2024, Highland Park continued to lead with innovation, sustainability, and community spirit. Through sound financial management and strategic foresight, we once again attained recognition for both our budget document and our comprehensive annual financial report. Moody's reaffirmed our prestigious AAA bond rating, a distinction granted to just 13 municipalities whose credit is rated by that agency. These accolades reflect the city's unwavering commitment to fiscal responsibility and forward-thinking planning. Throughout the year, we leveraged the strength of our long-range financial planning to implement an ambitious and transformative slate of capital development projects. And while planning began many years ago, in 2024, the time was right and we put plans into action. We invested more than $11 million in downtown Highland Park, delivering projects that enhance accessibility, beauty, and economic vitality. The complete reimagining of 2nd Street with sidewalk bump outs for outdoor dining, environmentally friendly brick pavers that create a seamless connection to Central Avenue is just one example. Additional improvements included miles of freshly resurfaced roadways, enhanced accessible crosswalks and pedestrian access, and numerous resurfaced parking lots. While construction season is always a challenge for everyone, especially our businesses, we know that this investment will yield dividends as it allows businesses to serve customers in new and exciting ways while affording residents the opportunity to create new memories. These enhancements are also about more than aesthetics. They're about increasing access to our businesses and making it easier than ever for visitors and residents to shop, dine, and enjoy Highland Park. These projects contribute to economic development by creating a sense of place through our streetscape, landscape, and business mix that is uniquely Highland Park. We were so thankful to work with our existing businesses and proud to welcome numerous businesses to our town over this past year. It truly is rewarding to see those businesses become part of the community, attending events, supporting other businesses, and encouraging customers to explore all that Highland Park has to offer. In 2024, we invested heavily in expanding our portfolio of economic incentives to support business attraction and retention in Highland Park. The first boutique incentive grant supported the arrival of DiNucci's late last fall through a special public-private partnership that brought this sought-after Italian-American hotspot to our community. And this year, through the limited boutique incentive program, we are so delighted to welcome home Highland Park native Amy Morton, who is bringing the Barnes Steakhouse to First Street in September. With input and feedback from the Business and Economic Development Advisory Group and local restaurateurs, we launched the new Food and Beverage Interior Improvement Grant Program, which encourages successful Highland Park businesses to invest further in their interior spaces, allowing them to enhance their service to our community. We also expanded the scope of our Exterior Improvement Grant Program, which encourages businesses and property owners to beautify their storefronts, again, in turn, attracting new and returning visitors to our business districts. So we welcomed more than 20,000 visitors to a variety of events in downtown Highland Park this past year, including the return of the Taste of Highland Park, the Vintage Auto Show, Stews and Brews, and we relaunched a Friday night concert series in Port Clinton Square. In 2025, we're looking forward to expanding this series to include additional nights, more activities for families, and greater participation by local restaurants. In 2023, we solidified environmental sustainability as a core priority, demonstrating our leadership in environmental stewardship. Guided by our sustainability strategic plan, we're implementing impactful, cost-effective programs that align with our goals of reducing citywide greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030 and achieving net zero 2035. We can do it. I know we can. Our initiatives continue to include, what?
We must.
We must, okay. And initiatives continue to include efforts to increase waste diversion through composting and recycling, to reduce water usage, promote community solar programs, to increase our electric fleet, and to improve transportation options serving our community. To support these ambitious goals, we hired a full-time staff member in 2024 to drive these efforts forward and to build on our success. Our dedication to serving all residents is exemplified by the transformation of the former Highland Park Country Club into a sleek, modern facility now home to the Highland Park Senior Center. The space features multiple activity rooms with integrated technology, a new movement room to support additional exercise classes, and coming later this spring, a dedicated new entrance that will enhance accessibility to senior center programs. This space will empower seniors to thrive. It also provides an updated community event space for any age to celebrate and meet, now known as the Moraine. Looking ahead, the city's also investing in digital accessibility. A redesigned website is on the horizon, promising enhanced navigation and interactive features to ensure residents have easy access to city government services and facilities. On behalf of our working group planning for a permanent place of remembrance, we thank all who have shared their insights with us as our planning process has progressed to location feedback over the past few months. Your thoughtful consideration of this most important aspect of planning for the future place of remembrance has been invaluable. We will continue to provide opportunities for the community to connect with us when it feels most comfortable for you. We know the importance of relying on community for support. Please don't hesitate to reach out for help. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone of resources available through the city's Resiliency Division, which provides short-term counseling and case management, among other services, to individuals impacted by the shooting. Visit resilienthpil.org to learn more. And please also know that multilingual resource navigation and service referrals are available 24/7 via 211 Lake County, which is a program of our partners at United Way of Lake County. So the state of the city is always a great opportunity to highlight just a few of the successes that marked the past year, but it's also a chance to recognize the government and community partners who make that work possible. Through quarterly meetings with elected and appointed officials of the government serving Highland Park, roundtables with clergy members, and regular meetings with our social service partners, we continue to share information and amplify resources, all with an eye towards providing excellent synergistic service to our community. On numerous occasions over the past few years, I've reflected on the partnerships and generosity of these people and the organizations that they lead. I see you over there, Mike Lubefeld. Our collaborative approach truly exemplifies the value of strong community bonds and promoting happiness and quality of life. We are knit together in hundreds of thousands of ways, big and small, many of them engendered by shared experiences facilitated by these partners. So recently, outgoing U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy published his parting prescription for America. His message that community is the key to fulfillment struck a chord with me as I reflect on what makes Highland Park truly special. Over the past few years, we have faced unimaginable challenges as a city, but we've also witnessed the strength and compassion that defines who we are. And as your mayor, I feel the weight of these challenges, and I've heard your concerns, your frustrations, and your hopes for our future. And I want you to know that as we begin a new year, I remain committed to working with you to address the issues we face and to fostering open conversations about the path forward. Dr. Murthy's reflections remind us that the foundation of a thriving community lies in the relationships we build and the values we hold dear. Now, the road ahead may not be easy. Trials, both literal and figurative, are on the horizon. It is through connections built on mutual respect and shared purpose that we find the strength to move forward. Whether it's a conversation about what matters most to you or collaborative efforts to address our shared challenges, I believe that together we can shape a future that reflects the resilience and spirit of Highland Park. So Highland Park has always been defined by its people, their compassion and their strength. That compassion and strength will guide us through whatever comes next. We are Highland Park, and I am so proud to call this community home. Thank you so much. Thank you. And with that, I ask, is there any business from the council? No. Okay. Thank you. City Manager Newkirk, will you please provide the staff report?
Thank you, Mayor. We can go to that next slide. There are 13 items on the omnibus agenda. All include detailed staff reports and are recommended for approval. I know there are a couple of items that the council wishes to remove, so happy to talk about those when the omnibus agenda is addressed. Specifically, just wanted to bring to your attention number 2, which is the Food and Beverage Interior Improvement Grant. As the council knows, this program was established to provide financial assistance to qualified, new and existing full and limited service food and beverage businesses that generate sales tax to cover a portion of their eligible expenses. This is a program where it does require property owner and business support, and then we provide financial assistance for those eligible costs. So we are recommending that the application for Bluegrass be approved. We are also recommending that we refine the application so it is specific that general maintenance not be included as part of those eligible costs. And specifically, we are looking that those bullet points that you see there, that eligibility must include that improvements directly enhance the dining experience, expand existing restaurant space, attract new patrons, and generate increased sales tax revenue. So again, this program is available to new and existing eligible businesses, but it must meet this very specific criteria, which we believe is in the spirit of the policy direction that the council gave when this program was established.
Great.
And then also included in the packet is the proposed work plan for 25. So this year, we have 136 major projects that are on our work plan. This work plan is established based on council feedback, staff feedback, as well as public feedback. So even though we are just starting 2025, we are actually keeping a list of 26 projects, so that's how long that we are working on these. But major projects are really defined as major initiatives that are outside of our day-to-day operation, or they're significant public-facing initiatives, or they could be significant internal initiatives, but we're just documenting them so we are all aligned about what are these major initiatives that are going to be undertaken throughout the year, who the project lead is, what are the different components that are set forth within that plan. We always start out with a review of the mission, as the mayor indicated at the spring workshop that we have. And so we want to make sure that these major projects align with the policy that the city council has set in the city's mission. And then that pie chart that you see there outlines how each of those projects, which core priority that they fall into. So new this year is we have input all of these major projects into a program called Airtable. And so it provides a more user-friendly approach to reviewing these, as well as monitoring and reporting them. So if individuals go to the city's website, you can see that web address on the bottom left of the screen. You can go there and identify the projects that you want to see by department. And then if you can see where those circled areas are, that open circle right there will open up that specific initiative so you can see what other different work objectives that are identified as part of that project. And then we do recommend, where you see the cursor right there, it's clicking on that link will expand the view so you can see it in the full screen of your computer or device. If individuals have any questions about it, they're welcome to contact us. And consistent with previous years, we will provide formal quarterly updates at city council meetings. And this is an evolving document. So as new initiatives are added, we will certainly could add it to that, but we will provide those quarterly updates.
Terrific. Great,
That
thank you.
concludes our report.
Any questions for the city manager? Sure. Wait, no, we're not to the agenda yet. So if you could hold on, that'd be great. Thank you. Any questions regarding major projects? Okay, thank you. Thank you, City Manager Newkirk. Assistant to the City Manager Palvitska, if you could please introduce the next item on our agenda, business from the public.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is business from the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on a topic that is within the City Council's purview and jurisdiction, but it is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you would like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until the agenda item is called, and we will give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the omnibus consent agenda, please let us know if you would like us to remove that matter from the consolidated list so that you can speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with members of the City Council. Rather, it is intended as an opportunity to make comments to the City Council. Please do not expect a response from anyone tonight. If appropriate, questions may be directed to the city manager or other city staff. All comments should be directed to the City Council. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We request that speakers refrain from throwing objects or using noisemakers, and that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to be heard this evening on an item not on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we will continue on with our scheduled business. Items 1 through 13 have been grouped together for omnibus consideration. I am seeking a motion on items 1 through 13.
So moved.
I'd like to
Did you want to pull item 1?
I want to pull item 1, and I'd like to pull item 12.
Item 12?
And
Okay.
May I make a quick comment about 2 and 11?
Okay. So Do you want to make your comments about 2 and 11 before we have a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great. I just wanted to comment on City Manager Newkirch's statement with regard to changing our initiative plan about maintenance and moving forward and expansion. And these programs were meant to be fluid. They were meant to be inviting to the community so we could see how they would work in the community and development. And we see the successes of them, as you've just explained to everybody, but we also are tweaking them as we go along. And so I think it's a really good point to note that we're looking to limit them and looking to grow with the community and use those initiatives in that fashion. So I just wanted to comment that that's exactly the way we envisioned these initiatives to go, and I'm very grateful for it. And along those lines, item 11 has to do with an outdoor area to stop the cold from going into one of our restaurants on Central, and that's Indus. And frankly, that was also a restaurant group that came to us for a plan, an initiative, a grant, which they did win. And it's hot off the presses that the Chicago Tribune just invited them to be one of the North Shore's best restaurants. So there's going to be voting in the Tribune over the next week or so, but literally just announced this afternoon that Indus of Highland Park is one of the North Shore's 2024 best restaurants. And it's going to be a vote to find out if they are that group. So I urge you to go online and vote through your Tribune
Vote early and
subscription.
often, absolutely.
We're in
Okay,
Chicago,
thank you.
almost.
So with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve items 2 through 11 and 13.
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Any comments or questions? Yes.
Sorry, I have a comment about number 10.
Okay,
So just a quick question. So I see that if we were voting on this, that it would be conducted, that the city staff and corporation council will look further into this, and then it would go to planning and design. Would it also go to zoning? Because I didn't see that it would be going to the zoning commission for.
Plan and Design
Okay.
Commission, and then coming back to City Council.
And
for
coming back
final
to city
consideration.
council.
Right.
Okay, okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other, Councilmember Bloomberg?
Yes, I wanted to identify how I'm going to be voting on some things that also affected last week's vote. The incentive program that we've talked about this evening is a program that was voted in place by the city council. I had, at the time, expressed my concerns about that program. I had voted against it. However, that's not before us tonight. What's before us tonight is whether the program, as we've passed it, is being appropriately implemented, whether the applicants whose programs or applications are before us for consideration tonight reasonably qualify, and I think that they do, and I'm excited for them, and I want them to do well under the program. So the fact that I'm voting in favor of these applicants and this use of the program is a different issue from whether I felt at the time that the program was an appropriate issue. That's a subject for discussion at another time. As the manager has indicated, we may discuss some additional tweaks at another time, but as it stands now, I think everything on our omnibus bill fits within what that program was intended to do.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions on the items to be voted on? None? Will the clerk please call the vote on items 2 through 11 and 13?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rodring.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Items 2 through 11 and 13 are approved. Item 1 is an ordinance waiving the formal bidding requirements of the city's purchasing manual and approving an agreement with Ripple Public Relations, LLC of Highland Park, Illinois, for the provision of promotional services. Councilmember Littlewer.
I just wanted to ask the city manager regarding the compensation in this package, because while there is not an increase in compensation, part of the sponsorship and the agreement percentage that would be paid over is a huge increase. And I'm not sure that it is the type of increase that this council should bear. So I have my issues with it.
Right.
And I'd like to support the contract, but because I think the services are wonderful. But it's come to our attention that I think it's too big of a gap.
Right. So do you have a number that you'd like this group to consider?
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's important to note that for commissions brought in, or for sponsorships brought in, the entity was receiving 20% and now wants to receive 50%. And that's the question that's being raised. And so to that point,
Perfectly stated, and I would recommend that we go up to 30%, but that 50% is too high.
okay, and so
And I would second that.
you would second that? And are others in agreement with 30 as something to be proposed, or were you going to vote no? I need to we don't usually do this kind of conversation on the dais. Councilmember Stone?
Yeah, I would just like some more information from the city manager about whether that's acceptable to the contractor.
Right.
Mayor, if
Yep.
I may.
City manager, thank you.
So just in terms of context, so this proposed agreement is set up in terms of two ways. So one is revenue share as it pertains to sponsorship, and then other is for event management. So total, we anticipate the total financial impact would be about $265,000. The sponsorship was established at 50% for a couple of reasons. So one, initially, the 20% was the initial rate that was established in trying to secure the contract. And so it was a competitive contract. Ripple was selected. We've had an excellent working relationship, and they've really exceeded our expectations in terms of overall management. In 2025, because we are going to the new location of moving most, if not all, of the events into the central business district area, it is changing the element, and candidly, it's a lot more work in terms of site management and planning and overall execution of the event. And so because it's a new space, it is more challenging to try to secure sponsors for something that they don't know what the feedback is going to be. Second, when we look at different event spaces, sponsors are looking for regular promotion of their brand. And in the downtown district, we did not anticipate, nor do we recommend, that we would be able to have banners up 24/7 promoting the different sponsors of the events. We also have less events in the downtown because we are looking at new space. For different reasons, we just have less overall events. And so that too was believed to be impacting how they would be able to get sponsors. So it's just more work for them to do that. And so for those reasons, that's why they recommended increasing that percentage. And so total last year, it was about $60,000 in sponsorship total. So it would be 50% of that $60,000 sponsorship or whatever they would generate. In terms of a number, unfortunately, Elise was not able to be here this evening because of another obligation, but whatever the majority of the council supports in terms of the percentage, we will certainly follow up with her and see if she is comfortable. We would like to get your approval this evening just because we do need to really start working on these events and getting everything into motion. But I would say whatever the majority of the council supports, we would go back with her. And then if she does not accept that, we'll certainly come back to you.
So, Corporation Counsel? No. Nope, okay. Councilmember Bloomberg.
With respect to the arrangement that you're proposing, do you know if that's competitive in similar situations with other municipalities?
Well, it's hard to say. So for example, we did talk to her about, Highwood. And Highwood, her agreement is not with the city, it's with a nonprofit entity. And so it's not really a public record that's disclosable. She's also had an agreement with them for over 18 years. They're established events, so the sponsorship just almost in a lot of ways kind of sells itself for something where it's already experienced. So we don't really have comparables in terms of other municipalities, but I'm looking at Assistant Manager Jason if she's got other input too.
Sorry, as City Manager Newkirk stated, we have had many conversations with Ripple about this exact topic, both before it was on the agenda and I was kind of anticipating some of your questions on this request. Truly, to make it worth their while, their ask would be to go no lower than 35%, just because the limitation on the number of sponsorships they're even able to secure for the event season this year, it would be a minimal dollar amount altogether. One of the additional items that they said to us just within minutes ago was possibility of taking the commission rather, and the sponsorships totally out of Ripple's hands and having staff do that. We anticipate this will be a heavy lift time-wise for staff to bring back in-house. From a staff perspective, we would recommend, if council's amenable, the 35%. Just because this is not an apples-to-apples comparison from community to community, and because of the differences, then the challenges that moving the events to Central and Port Clinton brings for sponsorships this year.
Councilmember Tapia.
Yeah, and just to put some math on this, and I'll just stay with the ask of 50% and then the recommendation of 30. I mean, from 20%, right, to 50% is a 150% increase. Now, even from 20% to 30% is a 50% increase. But okay, on this day, as a couple of us have said, that seems reasonable. You know, I'll let that debate go on between 30 and 35, but that is my rationale. 150% just is not reasonable overnight, and particularly in a no-bid situation. I feel exceptionally even more uncomfortable granting something that's really an outlier in a no-bid situation. So, but is it justifiable to ask for more? Yes, and I think the 30% is about right.
Okay. I mean, we could go a couple of ways. We could have a motion on 30, we could have a motion on 35, or people can just sort of give me a straw.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I do want to make sure the council knows, because this does involve a bid waiver, a supermajority vote is required, so you'll need 5 out of 7.
Okay, well, that makes it clear. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Is it possible that we can vote in favor of retaining Ripple, subject to further discussions between the city manager and Ripple as to the minimum necessary to retain them? Would that be enough to?
You're going to need a vote to waive the bids.
Right, yeah, right.
Right,
If
so
you're-
preliminarily, can we
And
do
it's a
that?
local ordinance, not a state statute that requires bidding. It's our own purchasing.
I mean, I think we can figure out 30 versus 35 and take action.
Okay.
So I guess I'm
All
just
right.
looking up
I'm
and down.
happy to make a motion for 30%.
Okay.
And a waiver of the bidding and an acceptance of the agreement for another year. And the
Okay.
$60,000 retainer, which is what they agreed to.
So you've made a motion. Is there a second?
But I second it.
Right. Any further discussion on 30? It looks like, yes, no discussion?
Are you willing to go to 35?
No, I
Is
really,
that-
I think that it's a
30 is-
huge lift.
Right.
And if they had wanted additional salary for this type of hard work, that's great. But frankly, if you think about it, if they were to make sponsorships for everything at the $205,000 level, we'd be paying them $100,000. And I wish them that success, but I don't want to go up that high, so no.
Okay.
I wouldn't.
We have a motion, we have a second, 30% as the commission, and is that clear enough for taking a vote? Okay, well, the clerk, please call the vote.
Councilmember Brockman?
Aye.
Councilmember Ross?
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia?
Aye.
Councilmember Littler?
Aye.
Councilmember Stone?
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg?
No.
Mayor Roding?
Aye, 6 ayes, 1 nay. Item 1, as amended, is approved. Thank you. Item 12, Councilmember Littler, is, I'll read it, and then ordinance granting a special exception for off-street parking relief for 565 Roger Williams.
I just want to say that I'm the liaison to the Plan and Design Commission, which passed this project 7-0. And it's a very exciting proposal for a new restaurant on Roger Williams, and it's going to have 130 seats inside, and part of the whole gestalt of the restaurant, if you will, is to have an outdoor space for an additional 100 seats. And it sounds exciting and beautiful. And I think that we were really sold at PDC on this issue. But I think it's the city council's job to look at the city as a whole. And I'm very concerned about the parking situation in that area. And I know there's plenty of public parking down the street. And what this resolution would have us do is to drop 7 spaces within the area in order to accommodate their plans moving forward for the renovation of this, what will be a lovely, lovely space and restaurant, I'm sure. And I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention because I want to make sure that whether it's through our master plan, which is old and outdated. We look at parking in general in the city of Highland Park, because this is a neighborhood. This is not the central business district. This is not a more commercial area like some of our other business districts. This is a lovely neighborhood, and it's got a very lively street on it. And I'm excited about this restaurant, which is going to have an amazing chef going in, but I'm very concerned for the change in the neighborhood. I'm specifically thinking about Thursday nights, which are Food Truck Thursdays, which get a wonderful slew of people down to the east in the little park, which are the same night, which perhaps has a huge show at Ravinia Festival. And you'll have buses going up and down and people parking in overflow. And I'm very concerned, because what has been wonderful about Food Truck Thursdays is all the restaurants will tell you that when people get done listening to a little bit of music, they will then go to Roger Williams and go and visit our wonderful new restaurants on Roger Williams. And this will hopefully be one of them. But the parking situation will not be conducive to our neighborhood, and I'm very concerned about it. And so I just want to caution my fellow members and urge you, please, that this master plan that we've been talking about, that we've put funding aside for, consider parking for the city as a whole, because I view it as our mandate to look at the city holistically and to accommodate these kind of problems. And so while I support this initiative, I'm just very concerned about parking in general, and I wanted you all to be aware of the thinking that went into PDC, which was very supportive, a great concept and a great idea in and of itself. But we look to this on a more macro level, and I want to make sure that when we do this, we consider that issue. And parking was brought up, by the way, at that meeting.
Great. As somebody who grew up here and remembers when that neighborhood had a grocery store, a couple of gas stations, a post office, a drugstore, and a hardware store, I can tell you that there were a lot of cars parking in various places. And I'm glad that we still have 5 surface lots within that 3-block area. As far as a master plan is concerned, we are basically, and we're a built-out community. And I think for our future conversations around master planning, we've specified we're looking at the industrially zoned areas, but for the most part, things are pretty much built out at this point. I'm confident that this restaurant has thought this through. I'm not sure that those 7 spots on Roger Williams are going to be a make or break. I would love to see valet parking and somebody taking those cars over to the unused train station lot at night, and this not being much of an issue. And I know that we also, in terms of parking, have looked at transit-oriented parking. We have a train station right there. And to the point of many in this room, we do have the PACE buses going back and forth between what I will call uptown, some call downtown, and Ravinia, and that's also an option for people to park and then come down to have dinner. I know some other council members have some comments as well, starting with Councilmember Tapia. Councilmember Ross, do you want to be heard? And Councilmember Bloomberg? Thank you.
Yeah, and in terms of why I'm enthusiastic about this, in addition to what a great restaurant it's going to be and really contribute to that neighborhood, they're taking a building that's been, empty for maybe more than a decade.
Right.
And it's been a blight, and it's going to be filled with a lot of life and a lot of vibrancy and flames and outdoor seating and, very colorful and everything like that. So it's going to be a big transformation to what has been a vacant place that really was an eyesore and kind of painful in the midst of a lot of vibrancy happening there. And I'm really excited they've taken the commitment to invest in Roger Williams and Ravinia District and Highland Park. So I'm enthusiastic about that.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Ross?
I guess my concern is similar to Councilmember Lidauer's. The 230-seat restaurant, basically, with the indoor and outdoor seating. You've got, Ravinia Music Festival, and I guess my first thought was how are the other restaurants on the street responding to that? I feel that voice, I guess, should be heard. Voices should be heard, because any removal, any change to parking has a ripple effect for them. And I mean, for food truck Thursdays, it's, I find it very hard to find parking. I just think there's a parking issue. As much as I'm excited, absolutely thrilled that this vacant space, long vacant space, would have an exciting new restaurant in it. And I think another piece of it is that we're asked to look at this without any design, any plans. It seems like it would be reasonable to see the plan for it. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg?
I would just say it's consistent with our giving a variety of concessions in terms of parking in this area to other businesses, not merely on private property, but we've allowed businesses to use city spaces to be able to serve people outside during nicer weather. And I think this just is, it's a good problem to have, I guess, that Ravinia now has tight parking at night when restaurants are open. So I'm looking forward to the business coming in and supporting it with their opportunity to work in this way.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Stone?
Thanks. I'm looking forward to this business coming in as well. I think it'll be a great addition. I also am old enough to remember the hardware store and the grocery store and everything else that were, in Ravinia.
Post office.
And the post office and Shelton's. And we walked to Ravinia. It was really a walkable area, walkable neighborhood, and it still is. And I hope that having tighter parking in that area will encourage people to walk and bike to Ravinia, take the train, take the bus that we've talked now about the PACE bus, doing sort of a reverse thing where people can hop on and get off at Ravinia, in Ravinia Business District as well as at Ravinia Park, which would be really helpful at reducing the number of cars. Maybe people want to eat at this new restaurant and go over to Ravinia, so it's one car because they're parking for both. I think it's okay sometimes to have less parking. It's not a lot of parking spaces that we're talking about either. It's like 7 spaces.
Thank you. Councilmember Brooklyn?
Just to reiterate, I'm very excited about this new restaurant coming, and it does seem the restaurant must have thought about losing those 7 spots, that there would be fine with the parking that we have. And I see it as a neighborhood, new neighborhood gem that'll be great to have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So with that, I'm seeking a motion to approve item 12.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Can I,
We can come back to you.
yeah, can you come back to?
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Thank you. And item 12 passes, 7 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you. Continuing on to other business, item 14 is an ordinance granting variations from sections 150.703 and 150.707 sub D of the City of Highland Park zoning ordinance of 1997 as amended regarding 820 and 1036 Edgewood Road. Director Fontaine?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, the public hearing, do you want to open the?
Sorry?
Open the public hearing.
Sure. Do you want to do public hearing? Oh, the public hearing. Never mind. I was like, business from the public. Okay. Hang on. Okay. Pursuant to section 150.307 of the City of Highland Park zoning ordinance of 1997, I hereby call to order this public hearing for the consideration of zoning approvals for the property located at 820 Edgewood Road and 1036 Edgewood Road, commonly known as Northmore Country Club. Pursuant to statute and ordinance, notice of this public hearing was published on January 10, 2025 in the Lake County News Sun. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Brockman.
Here.
Councilmember Ross.
Here.
Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Rotering.
Here, we have a quorum, and I declare the public hearing on the consideration of these zoning approvals open. I will now turn the public hearing over to Director of Community Development, Joel Fontaine, for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff recommend opening public hearing, as you just have done, deliberation, and if appropriate, adopting ordinance granting the zoning variations and design review for Northmore Country Club related to this matter. This is part of a section 15307 zoning code settlement for litigation procedure. The city council is to conduct a public hearing on the proposed matter and exercise its powers thereafter. No board or commission recommendation is part of your packet. Mail notice was not required by code. However, the applicant noticed by certified mail 11 property owners near and to the north of the subject area. In terms of background, in 2006, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted relief for height, front yard, and 60-foot accessory setback zoning requirements for 34 poles and netting, 50 to 70 feet in height, for the driving range currently on the location. The applicant indicates that Northmore is aware of the fact that since then, and from time to time, golf balls hit on the driving range have traveled beyond the existing nets onto the property that is occupied by Edgewood Middle School. In the summer of 2024, the city cited Northmore for creating a public nuisance by allowing golf balls to hit from the driving range to leave the golf course property and to land onto occupied and to land in on the school property adjacent to the driving range, Edgewood Middle School. In terms of the project, the summary could be summarized as follows: as 6 additional poles, gray in color is what we're told by the applicant, at up to 130 feet with netting for a distance of approximately 260 feet to be located just behind the existing poles and netting, and I'll show you an exhibit in a moment. The requested relief from the zoning code and design review is as follows: a variation, as you had mentioned, to encroach 25 feet into the 40-foot required front yard, a variation from the zoning code to exceed the maximum allowed height for accessory structures to allow the up to the 130-foot height, and a variation to encroach 45 feet into the required 60-foot accessory structure setback. And lastly, essentially waiving the design review or granting design review approval for the related proposal. In terms of the proposed poles with netting, this is the project that's before you. In red are the proposed new poles with netting. In black below, you'll see that's the existing situation out there. Now that's going to stay, and these new poles, like was said just previously, will be offset from the existing. And so that gives you a graphic there that shows you the difference in height, relatively speaking, and the red poles would be the new poles. Okay, so why is it necessary that they be 130 feet and that these 6 new poles be placed where they're proposing? The Northmore conducted an analysis with an expert to look at the trajectories of the golf balls that are hit from the driving range. And here we provide some key findings. So the T-bays, should face the center of the range, install clear targets at the center of the range at a distance of 190 yards from the middle of the forward and rear teeing areas to attract golfers hitting driver to aim at the center. And 2, implement minimum height safety net heights that would be of 70 to 130 feet, as on page 9 in their report, and essentially would reduce the escapement or the golf balls leaving the golf course to only far less than 1%. Let's just say that. And that's according to the applicant's expert on this matter. Other notes: there is a settlement agreement included in your packet and is provided for information purposes only, and no city council is needed on that item. The applicant has until May 31st, 2025 to perform the proposed pole and netting project, and then the city will dismiss the citation. Other comments: North Shore School District 112 has expressed strong support for the proposed resolution to this problem, and city staff supports allowing the club to increase the length and height of the net on the north side as proposed. So the recommendation is that the council, have the public hearing, deliberate, and if appropriate, vote to grant the relief for the variances and approve the design review. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mayor,
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to, if I may, expand on the unique posture in which we're considering this. As Director Fontaine mentioned, we are operating tonight pursuant to a provision in our zoning code that allows the city council to hold a public hearing to allow zoning relief to settle litigation. I want to make an observation. The city did bring filed an administrative action against Northmore Country Club at the request of School District 112 as the complaining party. We convened a meeting of both parties, and I want you to be aware of the tremendous cooperation that the city received from both entities. School District 112 was very deliberate and professional in maintaining its position of how serious an issue this was. And they made it very clear to us. And we responded as a city to the concerns of District 112. When we brought it to Northmore's attention, the country club immediately got on top of the issue and provided a very comprehensive, in staff's opinion, very comprehensive resolution. They were extremely cooperative throughout, and so it was a pleasure dealing with both parties to try and settle what could have been an acrimonious litigation, and instead we are now here with a settlement that is supported by all parties.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. At this point, I'll ask if there are any questions or comments from the City Council. Councilmember Stone.
Thanks. I just have a couple questions for Director Fontaine. You said the poles were going to be painted gray. Is that the color of the existing poles? Or I don't know if they're painted or just they come gray.
I would defer to the applicant on the color
Okay.
of the poles and the proposal. We understood it to be dark gray to gray for the new poles.
Okay. And so let me ask the other questions, and you can decide if you're deferring all of them. So is there a double layer of netting in the middle if the existing poles remain, and it's just taller in the middle and tapers down on the two sides?
I believe, let's see. So if you look here, it appears to be that the netting will have some overlap, but not full overlap. So there's the existing poles with their netting, and then these are offset from those and go higher.
So they're just
So that
adding,
doesn't-
they're just adding a section at the top.
That's what it appears from this,
Okay.
yes. We don't have a building permit yet for this, but yes, that's what it appears.
But yeah, I
And-
would like to know the color of the existing
Sure,
poles
we defer.
and the color of the netting and how, because there's going to be that big swath of higher netting.
I would defer to the applicant on those
Yeah, if the
those
applicant can
questions.
step forward and maybe address the,
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Rottering, members of the City Council. My name is Michael Lieber. I'm Vice President of Northmore Country Club. I'm a resident of Highland Park, and I'm here as my capacity as the Vice President. Just to answer the question about the netting, the poles are, the netting is going to go from, the new netting is going to go from 130 feet down to the top of the existing netting. And the reason we're doing that is to be able to make the poles thinner and less visually apparent. The pole colors now is very dark gray. It's like a gunmetal gray. The netting itself is black, but it's sort of transparent because of how the weave of the netting is. The new netting will be less visible because of the technology that's happened over the last 18 years since we installed the first nets. Does that
Thank
answer your
you.
question?
Yeah. So you're making every effort to make it
Less
less
visible.
visible.
Absolutely.
Sounds like, so thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, Councilmember Ross?
My initial response to this packet item was, 130 feet is extraordinarily high, 13 stories high, essentially. I did wonder if you were able to but I've been assured by Corporation Counsel that you've looked at reorienting the driving range. You've looked at even a different kind of netting where you could maybe curve the top of it so that it didn't have to be that high. It does sound like I guess I can ask you directly, you've exhausted all other options.
I'm a lifelong resident of Highland Park. Sent my kids to Edgewood School. The president of the club is a lifelong resident of Highland Park. He went to Edgewood School, sent his kids to Edgewood School. We have 375 member families at Northmore. Most of them have very similar stories as us. When this was presented to us as a dangerous situation, we want to do everything we could to solve it. In our minds, this does everything possible to stop golf balls going over to Edgewood. So I think lowering the poles would be less expensive for us. We're footing the entire bill here, but it doesn't meet the safety standard that we want.
I am satisfied that you've exhaustively looked at this. I just had to mention how tall it is. Yeah, but I understand.
Thank you. Any Councilmember Brookman?
I just wanted to take a moment to thank Northmore and the School District 112 and City for coming up with a safe solution. And most importantly, making sure the kids at Edgewood are safe. I have a first grader and a 3-year-old, so eventually they will be at Edgewood. So thank you all very much for doing this.
Any other comments or questions from the council? No? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Lieber. Good to see you. Any members of the public wishing to comment or provide input? Please approach the podium, share your name for the record.
I'm Candace Dalrymple. I just was wondering if you could explain why the new netting is going only across a portion of the middle. Are we expecting the golfers to be accurate enough to be aiming to those higher nets? And what if they make a mistake and they go to the left or the right, but the higher netting isn't in place? Did I misunderstand the plan perhaps? But
there was a chart or a figure that showed the geometry of how badly people were shanking the balls and where they needed the nets. Only thinking of my husband at the moment. But if somebody wants to come up from the club and further explain it,
Maybe they could
or
put
we
that
could,
slide back
if
up.
you want to put the slide back up, Joel, that shows.
Mayor, I guess I'll also add, they hired an expert as well
Right.
that looked at where the golf balls would go from the driving range, and so they have covered
There we
that
go.
entire area.
Yeah, it was the process that went into determining exactly the height and location of the netting was very professionally advanced by experts in this particular field, and we reviewed it as a city. I'll note that the experts actually recommended a proposal that could have saved Northmore money, but Northmore decided to expend the funds as indicated to make sure that there was no doubt about safety, and that's the primary concern that was advanced here.
All right, okay, thank you. And you probably did not read the packet as far as this item is concerned, but Edgewood apparently recovered balls from their grounds, so they clearly know where the preponderance of shots are going. So, okay, hi.
Hi, my name is Brendan Penny. I'm an attorney with the Law Office of Melcher, Pertil, and Stell. I just want to briefly add, if we could put the image that was just up there, I want to respond just to the length and the proposed width east-west of the new net. What you see there are the white, the orange, and the red distributions are based on what the expert assumed based on 100 to 110 mile per hour swing as being the possible drifting ball path trajectory there. What you see east of the proposed new netting is too close to generate, typically based on what he was looking at, and golf swings, a height that would reach over the existing 50 to 70 degree netting, and west of the new proposed netting is too far for the ball to carry on average over those new nets, and that's why we have the east-west width of 260 feet.
Thank you. With that, I'll now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Still moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. And we need a roll call vote, apparently, to close this public
No,
hearing.
you're okay. That was fine.
Okay, thank you. And at this point, we'll now consider an ordinance granting variations from sections 150.703 and 150.707 sub D of the City of Highland Park zoning ordinance of 1997 as amended for the subject properties of 820 and 1036 Edgewood Road. And before I ask for a motion, I too want to just thank 112 and really thank the membership of Northmore for taking the safety of our kids seriously. We greatly appreciate the time and effort and obviously the expense that's going into this. We all value our community and we appreciate your working well together. With that, I'm seeking a motion on item 14.
Move to approve.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman. Aye. Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littleworth.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes, no nays. Item 14 is approved. Again, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Mayor, we will now then, with that, proceed to enter a consent decree allowing for the administrative review matter to be resolved and
Sounds great.
terminated.
Great, thank you. And thanks also, Corporation Council, for being that conduit to making that happen. Appreciate it. Do we want to take 15, 16, and 17 in omnibus?
You can.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, the staff report is all together, and you can take one single vote even when you get to it.
Terrific. So we will be taking under consideration item 15, which is an ordinance rezoning 494 Laurel Avenue, 466 Laurel Avenue, 444 Laurel Avenue, 1755 Laurel Avenue, 1755 St. John's Avenue, 1707 St. John's Avenue, and city parking lot southeast of Hazel Avenue and St. John's Avenue intersection to the PA Public Activity District. Item 16 is a resolution approving a final plat of subdivision for 494 Laurel Avenue and 1755 St. John's Avenue. And item 17 is an ordinance granting a special use permit for a library and granting a special exception for off-street public parking on the Highland Park Public Library campus. Mr. Fontaine.
Do we need a presentation?
We should.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for saying all that, so don't have to read this slide.
Took care of item number one.
Okay. So in terms of staff recommendation and commission recommendation, we do recommend the ordinance rezoning certain parcels from R5 to Public Activity, PA zoning district. Currently, the library is not an allowed use in the zoning district within which it resides. So there's a pre-existing legal non-conforming use. And we do recommend that ordinance as well as a resolution approving the plat and an ordinance granting a special use permit for library use and a special exception granting parking relief. You can see here on the right, the blue area as the area subject to rezoning. The red area is the red dashed line area is the library with proposed addition. In terms of the commission's consideration, the commission voted 6-0 to recommend the rezoning, special use permit, and subdivision relief, and voted 5-0-1 to recommend the special exception relief from required parking with conditions. The conditions were as follows: light fixtures may not be up in the uplight position, that all work in good faith to resolve the property line platting related to the Stupi cabin. Note, however, that relief in this council item, relief for the structure over a property line is captured. Three, that the final plat must provide an easement for the relocated utilities, subject to the approval of the city engineer. It's very important. In addition, for city staff, this isn't a condition that was recommended for approval per se, but nonetheless, we just want to make clear for everybody involved. The final plat must be amended to indicate the commission recommended approval and the city approval or municipal block must be added. Municipalities approve subdivisions in different ways. Our approval process is a plan commission recommendation, council approval. Some municipalities have the Plan Commission make the final action. So that's why the block needs to be changed. It just needs to be corrected for our particular municipality. In terms of public comments, there were concerns for the loss of open space along St. John's that were expressed at the public hearing at Plan Commission. Okay, so the proposed addition. It's a 7,850 square foot addition shown here in blue and the existing library in yellow at the intersection of Laurel and St. John's, as we all know. Related items on the grounds include a pathway and extensive landscaping. In terms of setbacks, the proposed addition complies with the public activity zoning. It's 37.2 feet to the north and 28.9 for the west elevation. This setback exhibit, it's hard to see, but it's in your packet, and you can zoom in. It shows the actual dimensions of the various elements within the area that will remain open. So they will include landscaping, a pathway, and an entrance to the proposed addition. Height and elevations. This exhibit shows you generally what the building will look like. It's a 32.5 foot max height being proposed, and that does comply with the PA zoning district. And here's the other elevation from the other side of the building, so you can see there from Laurel. Rendering exhibit. This gives you an idea of coming down St. John's. What does this look like as you are in the southbound lane of the road? As you can see here, you can see there's a sidewalk, you can see there's a grass area, and next to the building, there are extensive shrubs, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, and other landscaping. Here it is. So the landscaping plan shows, existing and proposed. And you can see extensive shrubbery along the new building facade, or what we would call foundation plantings. So in terms of that, what are we talking about? It's all in surplus relative to what the code would require. And as you can see here, there's a surplus of 194 shrubs over what the code would otherwise require, 11 in terms of trees, evergreen, 9, and ornamental 2. So quite an extensive landscaping package proposed. I'm very happy to see that. And you can see here on the left, as you can see all those smaller plantings, quite extensive right there along the right-of-way. In terms of exterior lighting, the applicant agreed to eliminate uplight element that was shown at one point. In terms of parking relief, there is a special exception consideration. It's one of the considerations before you this evening for 40 spaces of off-street parking. Remember, as I said earlier, this is a pre-existing non-conforming use and situation. The expansion proposed increases the number of required parking spaces from 164 to 204. So the incremental relief is what is needed at this point of 40 parking spaces to allow the expansion with respect to parking. So the parking study that was submitted identified 276 spaces, of which 11 are accessible in the general vicinity of the library. And here we do the breakdown real quickly of that 176 spaces. Now, mind you, that includes the 50 off-street parking spaces currently provided by the library. In terms of subdivision relief, the request is for lot shape, the pre-existing lot. It's actually it dates back to 1869, the formation of the city. So it's a really, really old plat. So we're going to say that's one of the relief elements requested. And then the other is the lot line through a structure, the stoopy cabin and its shed. So stoopy cabin, not too long ago, I would say in the teens, 5+ years ago, actually 2017, went through an extensive renovation. That was really great. And really restored quite a bit of the cabin itself. And as part of that process, there was a foundation created to put the cabin on a foundation, a proper foundation, so that it wouldn't be directly touching the ground or deteriorate from that type of a situation. So the stupid cabin's not moving anywhere, and it does straddle to the two properties. So that will be an existing condition. There is a shed behind it, which respectfully, staff thinks is the best location for that shed, and that may also be over that line a little bit as well. As you can see here, generally this subdivision complies, except with the areas that we just denoted. So to sum it all up and provide staff's recommendation again, we do request the council consider approving, as the Plan Commission had recommended, the ordinance for the rezoning, the resolution approving the plat of consolidation with variations, and an ordinance granting a special use permit for the expansion and for the library use itself, and a special exception granting off-street parking relief as just discussed. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Wonderful.
If you have
Thank
any
you.
questions, let me know.
Any questions from the council?
Comment, not a question.
Okay, go for it.
I want to say the library board and staff I want to recognize here have done an incredible job of planning this expansion. I'm really proud to serve as liaison to the library at this time and to have the opportunity to watch the deliberations on this project. The expansion plan going to the west creates much more usable space and a better flow within the interior, and just provides a lot of advantages. And the board was really trying to be fiscally responsible. There's a limited budget for this, and everything is coming in high, but they wanted to put the money into the building rather than into the parking, especially given that we have parking all along St. John's here, a lot of public parking that's available, and having that shared use of the parking is a much more effective use of the money. So thank you for this plan, and I am totally in support of all of these items.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Tapia.
Yeah, I'm excited for the library expansion for all the reasons that went into it. My concern is more of a larger, I think, let's call it in the spirit of lessons learned, less about the decisions that the library board did, because they work with a lot of the parameters they have. But, as we've been having other discussions about a city campus or, doing other things that might expand our use of the land, I think we've missed an opportunity to think about this corner of the city in a much more comprehensive, holistic way. There's a lot of things going on, with potential placement of the memorial, the Stupid Cabin, which is venerable, but then now we have Miss Nitro, and the cost it's going to take to move her, and then the loss of green space. I feel that we miss an opportunity to think about this in a more visionary, comprehensive way. Again, it's not about the process the library board did, because they had their mandate, but I think our mandate should have encompassed a bigger view of sort of the other property adjacent, and seeing how we could have brought this thing in a much more comprehensive, holistic way that could address some of the dilemmas we're facing now.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, more looking forward, not because we can't water under the bridge here, but I think as we think about other property parcels, or that sometimes we get too narrowly focused on the building itself or the project itself, and we don't think enough about the unintended consequences of the adjacent elements around it that may require some broader discussion that goes outside the scope of the immediate project, like the library, and ask ourselves other questions. What else could be affected? Like the loss of green space, for example, especially in a city that prides itself in being a green, sustainable place. I think we by asking those bigger questions, we may have had alternative ways of looking at some of the options. And by the time we started asking those questions, or those questions were brought to us to look at, the things were so locked in that we couldn't protect the green space because of the dilemmas of undoing a lot of investment in investigation, a lot of work that already happened. But if we had asked these questions earlier, there might have been more passed in front of us about some options that could have helped us resolve some dilemmas, like the loss of green space.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Thank you. Heidi, Rob, Carol, and the whole board, I deeply appreciate all the work that you've done on this. I had had and continue to have some significant concerns, but I deeply appreciate your taking the time to address all of them. And in addressing them, those concerns included the loss of the green space to the west of the library. And that was a concern I think I shared with large portions of the community. And I know from talking to all of you that you also shared those concerns and that you considered the possibility of building up on some of the existing building, that was an impossible engineering feat without spending something like $40 million, as I would estimate based on the cost of the original build in real cash dollars. We were foresighted enough as a city council to purchase some property to the east of the library, and although it's not an ideal replacement, it will provide some substitute green space that we're going to be losing to the west. That was not without consideration. While I appreciate some of the comments that have also been made this evening, I know from talking to you about some of those concerns that these were considered very carefully. We can't, as a city council, take every project at its earliest stage, but only after it's been considered either by a board, an advisory group, or one of our sister governments and brought to us for final approval. And I'm completely satisfied that you looked at all of these issues carefully, including the sculpture that's there, the Stoopy log cabin, and the impact that this library will have in our community. Underlying this is the exceptionally important expansion of the library at its core to serve our community as the most visited building in our community and providing services that we really must have, that are at our core mission as a municipality. So although I don't particularly like the outcome from aesthetic, historical standpoints, I understand the need for it and I accept that. And I appreciate everything you did within your power to try to address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brookman?
Thank you all. So for anyone who attended the I Read kickoff event at the library this weekend, the children's love and excitement for the library and what it has to offer was on full display. I think this plan embraces and builds on the thirst for youth services at our library, which is only going to expand with this development. And I think it's going to be wonderful. Planning with our children in mind and fostering an environment that attracts children only strengthens our community and has several positive benefits, both direct and as positive externalities. I'm so very excited to see this plan come to life for our community, especially with two young ones myself. This expansion will also allow the library to partner with other institutions to host traveling exhibits, which opens the doors to many new opportunities to showcase the Highland Park Library and our community as a whole. Expansion of this library westward makes sense and is fiscally prudent option. Alternative proposals would have cost the city and the library more than twice as much. So thank you very much again. Thanks.
Thank you. When did we start talking about the case for space? Was that
2007.
2013, right. So
Before that,
It was.
2007, there was a plan in 2008.
and 2009. So,
that predated me, but the case for space was 2013.
okay. I still remember the PowerPoint. So I just want to say thank you as well. And to Councilmember Bloomberg's point, I see you, Councilmember Ross, thank you. We talked about building up and why that wasn't feasible. And then in an effort to be even more broad in our opportunities and expanding this area's campus, we purchased 2 homes to the east and said, hey, here's the way we're going to resolve this. But obviously money is not, indefinite. We have our limits. And I recognize and appreciate the hard work that's gone into planning this expansion. The amount of community outreach that has gone into this conversation is remarkable and a model, frankly, for other projects, including even having a presentation during a tornado in the basement of the library. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for the incredible work you've done. You've really tried to protect that space to the west. And you really tried. I mean, I know several of us sat down with you and reconfigured, and you patiently sat with us and discussed how that really wasn't going to work out. I just want to say thank you for everything that you're putting into this. So again, sounding like the old geezer in the crowd, I remember when the addition was put on in 1974 and how exciting but also amazing that was, because there were houses there that were taken over. I think our nursery school was in one of those houses. But Thank you for keeping us up to date, and most importantly, for the gift that you're giving, not just to this community, but to the children of this community. When we talked about the case for space and the fact that almost every new addition into the youth section required something to be removed from the youth section because of the loss of space that was there, it broke my heart. My life began at that library at the age of 3, and I have awesome memories of just the world exploding with everything that I read in those rooms. So I just can't thank you enough for what you've put into this. Super excited for it to finally come to fruition. Councilmember Ross, I know you had comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I shared the concern about losing green space on the west side. I tried to look at different options myself, and as I shared in Committee of the Whole, taking trace paper, cutting it up, and reorganizing the different programmatic pieces myself. I met with Heidi for over 2 hours. You were kind enough to host me in your office. And I am satisfied that no other direction of expansion worked optimally or financially. I greatly appreciate the board's hard work and Heidi's hard work, not least of all meeting for hours and hours with council members one-on-one. I thank you all for your time and effort and for this utterly precious community resource.
Great. Councilmember Littlewer.
Thank you. So I think it's going to be unanimous in thanking you all for your time and your hard work and your puzzle pieces and everything that you've done for us. And I really think you have looked at every option. And for that, I'm grateful. I think you guys have done a completely thorough job, and I know it has been in depth. And I thank you for the time that you took together as a group to brief me when I just would not stop badgering you with questions. I will also say that sitting through the hearing, the hearings, again, at the PDC, a lot of issues were raised about the parking, and I thought you responded to all of those, and I'm perfectly comfortable with all of those. I cannot move forward without voicing one last time how sad I am that Highland Park will lose what I believe is its front lawn. And there was a lot of concern from neighbors, and there were people who came out and said, we don't like losing this open green space. We all, and even the neighbors who spoke, were supportive of the expansion of the library and understanding the need. And I know you took into account the way staffing would be impacted and the costs, and you were frugal in trying to make sure that you didn't have to double staff, but to keep things contiguous, both for the children's rooms and everything else. And then those levels, I think you've done the most thorough job I've ever seen on such a project. I'm not sure we have, and the reason I say that is I have a lot of questions still open about cost. And one of the biggest problems was that not about going up. Up was exorbitant, okay? But going to the east, we all knew was about $2.5 million difference. And I still don't know what the final costs are going to be to move Miss Nitro. I still don't know what some of these costs are going to be in different areas. And I don't think that all of that was sorted through. I understand the need to move forward because contracting prices are only going up. We don't want to make it more expensive once it's finalized. But I do think that it should have been more thoroughly looked at in terms of the east property, perhaps the sale of one of those properties, perhaps, we are going to have green space going to the east, and that's wonderful for the neighbors to the east, and I don't ever want anybody to lose any green. But that front lawn was all of Highland Park's front lawn. And when you drove up St. John's and you see this wonderful campus of public buildings, that green was something beautiful. So I applaud you for adding more shrubs than you needed, more trees than you needed, and doing the best you can do with a very small space. Because our big green lawn, at some points, is going to be 9 feet. At the widest point, it's going to be 17 feet. And right now, it is a huge expanse. And I'm not sure the difference was 2.5 to 3 million. I think it was more like 1.8, maybe even 1.5 in a different way. So I thank you for everything you've done, and I think it's a beautiful plan, and it'll be great. But I do mourn the fact that the Highland Park neighbors are going to lose their front lawn, and I think we could have been more thorough. So I hope in some ways we will do, again, more general overall planning so that we can use these extra spaces in some way where we don't have to lose that. And it does come at a cost, but I think that this is a town that demands the best. You are going to give us the best product, I have no doubt. But I do think it affects the neighborhood in a way that is somewhat sad, even though it's going to be a beautiful library. So I thank you for your work.
Councilmember Stone?
Thank you. I just need to respond, and unless the library folks would like to respond, that the library did look extensively at going east.
Right.
To go east would require that the addition be on pillars or be raised up to the level of the adult section. There's an issue with steep slope and ravine over on that side. There's an issue with neighbors being nearby, neighboring homes and putting more next to those homes. And there's an issue with the way it would have laid out in the interior, that the space that was needed was space for the children's section, the youth section, which is on the other side of the library. And so putting it over there would have required people to walk all the way through the adult services section to get over to another area, would have required reconfiguring the interior. So that they did look very,
No, I
very
know.
extensively.
They briefed me on it. They were wonderful. I know you
Okay.
looked.
So I just want to make sure everyone knows that was considered going up, going down, going east, going west. Everything was on the table initially, and this was the plan that really met all the needs and did it in an efficient way. So I'd like to, with that, make a motion to approve items 15, 16, and 17.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from the public on items 15, 16, or 17? Thank you for your patience.
I guess I should just start before you run the timer. I'm Jason Dreyfus. Councilman Tapia, you talked about water under the bridge. Tonight's the night. You can pump the brakes. You can say no. You don't have to vote yes. You can do it. So I'm here in opposition. I'm not that dense. I can see the writing on the wall. There's two issues why you shouldn't approve the library's request. The loss of the iconic green space and the flawed bias process of the Planning and Design Commission. With respect to issue one, this block of Hazel to Laurel, the front lawn of the city, the mayor talked about 20,000 visitors, thousands of Ravinia patrons, people driving or riding on the train every single year. Ms. Nitro, this block is iconic part of the city. And the sculpture is being treated like scrap metal. This whole block, it should be treated holistically. Exactly right. And we should pump the brakes and answer some of these questions. Because, right, I don't know where this memorial is going. There are a lot of questions about what is going to happen right here. And so as I was doing research in preparation for tonight, did you guys know that Ms. Nitro is registered with the Smithsonian? I came across this website from the city that talks about our commitment to public art. What's it going to say to our city? What's it going to say to the artisans that park across the street for our world-class art fair? What does it say to our community about our commitment to public art when we gobble up that space? So this project's not that big, just big enough. Just big enough to gobble up that green space, to throw Ms. Nitro to the side. And so there were two meetings, and staff did not say that there was a lot of discussion about the sculpture. And this ordinance says that it's a vacant lot. It's not I mean, I was out there earlier. I specifically went out there earlier. I put my hands on the sculpture. I promise you it's still there. That is not a vacant lot. It is a sculpture park. So, laughably false, which leads me to issue number 2. At the conclusion of the November 19th Planning and Design Commission, the commission directed staff to, quote, draft findings of fact recommending approval of the requests. How is that appropriate? How is that proper? Findings of fact are supposed to be objective. How can the commission say, here, staff, draft findings of fact recommending approval? What's the point of findings of fact? There's lots of noble reasons. You guys can totally approve this project, but do it the right way. Be thoughtful, be holistic. Tonight's the night. It doesn't have to be water under the bridge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dreyfus. We do have a motion. We do have a second. Any further questions or comments from the council? Any from the public? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman. Aye. Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Yeah, my vote is going to be a no, not out of lack of support for the library. I really believe in it, but just in really dismay about the process.
Councilmember Littlewer.
No, as much as I favor the expansion.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye. 5 ayes, 2 nays, and items 15, 16, and 17 are approved. Thank you, everybody, for all the time and all the discussion and all the thought that's gone into this decision. And with that, I am seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.